Hello everyone, once again, welcome to this week's Prepare Like a Pro. As usual, I am your host, International Master Tianqi Wang. So for the month of April, I thought it would be it would pack a lot of symbolic value to begin covering the players that will play our club's next flagship event, Spring Classic. It normally our club has at least 3 of those a year, but as we know, for the last 2 years we have rebranded one of the classics into what is now known as the St. Louis Masters, which I also encourage everyone to check out some of the competitive games from that tournament, which will happen in December. But anyways, let's return to our topic for today. As you know, I work here at the club, but I also go to school at SOU, and so putting those two together, it should not come as a surprise that today we will be covering 2 of my teammates who will play in the Spring Classic, which is about 3 weeks from today. And so up first, we have a future participant in the B group, Grandmaster Emin Ohanyan. My impression of his play is that he's always a very persevering person, and he fights until the last card has been played. And so today we'll see the demonstration of the strong side of his gameplay in this following game that took place last year when he was attempting to qualify for the Chessable Masters tournament on chess.com. He had, as you can see, he has black here against Grandmaster Frederik Svane, and also an incredibly talented player. But of course you're talented if your last published rating as an international master was somewhere in the middle to high 2500s. And that's okay. I think that should be enough introductions, and let's begin the game here. So e4, c5, knight f3, e6, bishop e2. So so here white must have decided that it is an online tournament, 10-minute game. Although it's a 10-minute game, it still earns you a spot in the main tournament, which has a 6-figure prize pool. So, but anyways, so white plays bishop e2 in an effort to divert from the main line that countless people are familiar with, but black is not phased. They play knight c6 because that is where their knight goes pretty much anyways. Castles, knight f6, knight c3. Then here we have our first minor deviations here. Normally we see here that white has harmoniously developed all these pieces and they're conspiring to play d4. So actually, in fact, one of the standard concepts for black to live and preach by is to go e5. So now we have 1, 2, 3 controlling the d4 square, and so d4 would simply be charging headfirst into a wall of porcupine quills. Black is not concerned about the d5 square because there is already enough defenders. If needed, they can play d6, bishop e6, bishop e7, also harmonious position for black. And if white is reads too much into the appeasement side of things, then of course we can eventually conspire to play d5 one day as black. And so here black played queen b6. It's again same idea, but queen b6 does not necessarily try to wrestle control of the e5 square, which is what white does here. They play e5. Oh, they play rook e1 first. Sorry, play rook e1, bishop e7, and now they play e5. And so now we have come we have come to our first major decision-making point in this game. If you are black here, where would you try to direct your knight to go to, as per the instructions of the CPR rule? Double Jared says knight g4. Yes, I think knight g4 is a very promising option, especially considering that. So knight g4 is what black played in the game, by the way. So there are several reasons why I believe it is promising. So firstly, we are not giving white time to breathe. We're not giving white time to breathe because e5 is hanging. Also, when white plays h3 one day, we can play knight h6, and this would come in handy if white's pawn was still on d2, because that means bishop takes knight would be illegal. And lastly, of course, if we are diving into the world of scholastic chess, we can see that c4 is plotting some heartbreaking conspiracies on the f2 square. Okay. But we must return to reality and realize that white reached cross 2600 on his own, his unique experience of hard work. So white goes bishop b5, which actually packs a lot of underrated punches to the position. One thing is, on the basic level, there are now exactly 2 defenders for the pawn, and also white is conspiring to do to commit to one of the standard exchanges of a Sicilian position where all 16 pawns are alive. So one of the things that we see here is that, for example, this is from one of my games. Actually, that didn't happen. It was knight c3, e6, sorry. Knight c3, e6, or no, it was knight c3, knight c6, sorry. Bishop b5. So as we see here, this is an example from one of my games that I forgot the moves of, but here e6 is actually a positionally very damaging move for black, because white can simply take this knight, and then they play something like they can play something like f4. They can play something like f4, knight f3, d3, and in general, black really doesn't know what to do with his bishop. Also, black will have a hard time resisting the gradual monopolization of dark squares by white. But let us return to our game. So we see this is what white was trying to do. If given the opportunity, they would like to take the knight on c6, and see how black takes back. If black takes back with pawn, then we play slow. We try to we try to be more more annoying than the Gavin Newsom PSA texts about the bishop on c8 being a pawn. If black tries to preserve their structural integrity with queen takes, for example, then white maybe can try to change to rush black with something like d4 and maybe d5 if black does not take on d4. Okay, so let's see how black conducts himself here. So here our hero plays f6. f6 is in fact a standard procedure in Sicilian positions arising after bishop b5 f6. We do not want to touch the d pawn because what normally happens is that white already took the knight on c6 and we played b takes. So if we tried challenging e5 with a d pawn, at that point then white simply exchanges, and then white said we failed chess because we have no idea what pawn island concept is. So that's why we play f6. And here white played e takes f6. I presume because white actually is not familiar with this position, and their objective sense of judgment has experienced some degradation due to the chaotic nature of the position. However, and after knight takes f6, of course, black began a slow takeover of the position here. So let's go back to f6 here. If you're white here, what could we have done a little bit differently to retain our first move advantage instead of taking the pawn on f6? Lucid Chess Live. Bishop c4, I'm not sure. Also, I think it is white to move because black's last move is f6, attempting to challenge white's white's share of the middle. Exchange and play d4. There are two exchanges. So I believe some specification would be necessary here for our RL from Twitch. Okay, I think our Twitch viewers are making great progress actually. So here, okay, so I think everyone has reached more or less the right conclusion here that we should play bishop takes. We should take the knight. And if black should play b takes to maintain their compact center. And now here, very important. It's here very important that we play. By the way, so for Mohammed from YouTube, I would say that d4 would be right if black played queen takes, but b takes is black's best way to continue. So here white has white has an almost very muted way of causing problem in black's position. Very good. So now we realize that this knight actually probably shouldn't be like an abandoned children at the mall. So we play h3. But here black should not play knight h6. By the way, they should take. And now, how do we respond to knight takes e5? We should take. Now, very important, what do we actually play here? Yes. So we want to get the pawn back. We want to get the pawn back, but not with the rook e5. We want to play queen h5. And here after g6, we just take and castle. And here, the difference is that now, here we'll reach a similar position to the actual game, but the difference is that now it'll be more difficult for black to achieve this d6 e5 adjustment that black was able to in the game. And so here white would be a little bit better because we see here that it is only this bishop on e7 that is holding the position together. Once we find a way to remove this bishop without allowing black to play d6, then white would be pretty much autopiloting to a win here. However, that was not what happened in the game. White played takes, knight takes, and only now they took, but now this is much different because black has a free hand in playing d6 e5 in this position. White does not want to play d4 because it means giving up more share of their control of the center, so to speak. So b3. White correctly identifies that knight a4 could be a problematic idea for black eventually if black plays some positionally insensitive moves such as d5. But of course, this is why Emin is invited to the Spring Classic and not me, because I would play d5, but he would realize that we can castle first, d3, and now we play d6 and not d5. White plays knight d2. The idea here is that after e5, bishop g4, this pin could be very logistically inconvenient for white because white does not want to play knight b1, knight d2. In fact, white just does not even have time to do that. So we play knight d2. Also, knight c4 could be on the way, which, okay, of course, happens here. Queen c7, bishop d2, and now here we try to provoke some weakness. We do, very good. And now we try to put our pieces on better squares. White does not respond to us, so we play queen d7, knight d4, knight f4, rook f1, queen a6. So here you see that because of this one timing error from white, black has successfully taken over the position. Here queen e6 is important because white would like to white would like to black would like to play d5 and just win the game already. But here, white has knight e5, and here there's some difficult choices have to be made. For example, after queen e6, there is takes. White, yeah, so now here there is knight g3, because after here we have rook e1, and again black has difficult choices to make because well, they don't have choice, they just have problem, because after white takes this knight, one of these bishops will be unfortunately written off the show. So, oh, not that move, sorry, I was trying to unclick. So, and I think queen c7, again, same thing, we would transpose to this exact position again. There will not be any funny moves with bishop f6 or bishop d6 because this knight is hanging. So that's why we play queen e6. To now knight e5. Knight c5 is not a threat, but knight e5 is, so we do that. Rook e1, bishop g6. Of course, the bishop has done its job on that diagonal, so we try to bring the bishop closer to friendly territory. Knight c3, rook f7, knight e2, knight d5. Of course, some maneuvering again, some more maneuvering, and here white begins their first major risk taking here. They play f4. On paper, it looks like white is actually well prepared to challenge black's share of center, but in fact, I believe this was the beginning of downfall for white, because f4 actually exposed exposed something in white's position. And so if you're black here, how would you respond to this pawn push? Queen f5. Interesting. Queen f5. Can I play? E4. I thought knight c3 is good enough. I think what black does not want to do here is to be tricked into or baited into putting everything on light square, and then white can freely traverse on the dark squares. So if queen f5 is an interesting idea. So I don't actually remember what black played, but let's find out. They did play queen f5. So great from Steph Kitch 323. Yep. So here, in fact, I thought actually the move was bishop h5, but with the idea, of course, you also can't take because. But okay, queen f5. I think good principle that you move the queen off of, move it away from an opponent's rook. Technically, we're doing that into another rook, but this one we can take because queen f1 just wins the game. So white tries to alleviate some pressure here, but we don't respond. We play queen h5, queen f3, and here knight f4. Very nice catch by Emin here, realizing that knight e3 is the result of white's pieces stepping on each other, echoing the sentiment of a typical strategy saying that the problem is never because your opponent is too good. The problem is that your own pieces cannot cohesively work together. And so this is what, as you can see, what happens in this position here. So white plays knight f4, queen takes queen. Good in between move, discipline from Emin. So takes, and now we play rook f4. Now here, black has successfully maintained their structural integrity. However, this allows a somewhat interesting move from white to complicate everything. So if you're white here and you know the best in the store here is half point, what can you do to infinitely ascertain that ending for you? 95. Very good. So we play 95. Unfortunately, this bishop is hanging, so black has to go rook f7 here. Now we take, and here we have. Now here we see the perseverance of our one certain Emin Ohanyan here. When we see opposite color bishops here, what normally happens is that we lose a lot of our will to continue wood pushing, because we just naturally assume that the position will end in a draw. However, one thing we should note is that the bishops are not alone here. There are rooks on the board. So that means if one side starts to play passively, they end up playing rook against rook bishop, because that other bishop simply is simply a non-factor in the game. In chemistry equations, that bishop would be known as the aqueous solution. So rook f1, h6, h3. So some maneuvering happening here, g4. So while white may be treating these pawn pushes as trying to obtain some activity, black could be viewing this as that they are successfully provoking white to make weaknesses. So king e8, king g3, king d7. Here g5 actually could have been an interesting idea, but I guess white did not want to allow h5. Rook e1, king e6, rook e2. Okay, again we see some small changes in the position. So here white takes because they do not want to play g5 and allow black to anchor pieces on g4. Takes, rook f2, rook b8, king h3. So here, just playing the waiting game, rook h8, bishop g5, bishop d1. So here, we poke and prod. Okay, some poke and prodding happens, some more of that happens. Rook b4, rook b7, bishop h7, rook f8. So here, very important, if black wants to win the game, they should not trade the rook. Here, bishop d2, rook b7, rook f2, g6. Again, the black is now slowly moving forward, and white is trying to, white argues that they've already maxed out their defenses, so the only thing they can do is sit and wait. Here, c4. I have a feeling that c4 is some form of... I'm not sure if white actually needs to play c4 here, but I do understand that the threat is there's rook g4. There's rook g4 here and rook a4 winning the pawn on a2. And if you play bishop g5, then of course the black king can continue to crab walk into c3. But of course we should throw in rook c3 first, so there's no bishop d2. So yeah, so I guess c4 was sort of the difficult decision to make because, as I said, no crab walking for the king e6. d4, I'm not sure if white wants to play d4 because, again, because black is up a pawn, but the computer more or less treats it as like a quarter of a pawn because of the fact that the extra pawn is doubled on the c file. But surprise, Steph Kitsch here is actually right that the idea is that there is actually an idea to play d4. Okay, so of course we should not play e takes because there's bishop d2, so takes, c5. Of course we play c5 because otherwise white might play bishop c3 and then c5, and here we unfortunately would not be able to hire the contractors to respond to the termites here. After c5, bishop c3, again, lots. We start a new round of maneuvering. And here finally white croaks under the pressure. They play rook e2, and of course black wins the game after rook d3. I think this is a great game where black caught a timing imprecision from white, and they maxed out their patience, and eventually they were rewarded with the full point instead of being slowly exchanged into a draw. So that is a great game from Grandmaster Emin Ohanyan, who will play in Group B of the Spring Classic. I hope you stay tuned for more of his imminent brilliancies in 3 weeks. And now let's move on to our next game. This next teammate that I would like to introduce to everyone is extremely eccentric grandmaster hailing from Central Europe, Victor Gazik. I say if you ever watch his games, you'll realize that he never plays. He is a living Dr. House in our chess community, because he never plays by the book, but he somehow always wins in the most one-sided way that he can, and his victims and the victims of this of his playstyle is not just limited to inexperienced K20 players. In fact, a lot of K10 professionals also find it uncomfortable to play against him. And today we will look at highest rated player I have ever met. For normal and super, to answer that question, I would like to point out that last Monday, not yesterday, but the Monday before, I was in the same chasement as all the top players in America, and so I guess you could say Nakamura, you could also say Caruana. I think they're all high enough to be considered highest rated player I have ever met. But I guess if we're talking about legacy ratings, then that would be one certain Garry Kasparov, because he was at Super Nationals in 2009. Yes, in 2009, and he signed part 5 of his predecessor book for me. So there you go. And as for Viktor, I know all of his games are unbelievably colorful. At the same time, it was a little bit difficult to pick a game, but I ultimately settled on this game because I think it really brings out all the flavor that encompasses the way Viktor plays chess. And without further ado, let's show you this game from Mitropa Cup. I think it was last year, I want to say, where he represented Slovakia against Czech Republic. Mitropa, of course, is the annual team championship between countries that are considered middle of Europe. So here we see that Viktor is playing white here against the famous protege of Grandmaster David Navarra, Nguyen Taiwan. Now, recently he, if you did not read news, he recently won the B group of Tata Steel, so we will see him at the A group next year at the start of 2026. And so the game began with E4. Of course, as many biased coffee house player like to claim. I, in fact, am teaching one of such players right now. E4 is the best way to play for win. For white, of course, so e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, principal chess, and here, of course, immediately, the first thing he does to not play it by the book is to play d4. We hardly see d4 these days in 90-30 games because if black knows everything, then white can easily lose their first move advantage, and in some instances they might simply just be a little bit worse. No. But that has never stopped our that has never stopped our friend here who secretly identifies as a Houdini. So knight takes e5, queen e7, queen e2, standard procedure everywhere, h4. So here we see that white picks this is white picks the latest major update in this opening, that h4. You want to play rook h3, you want to play g4, you want to push here. In general, causing black major discomfort. So here black has two major ways to play. They can play, oh, actually they have three, sorry. They can play d6, and they can play f6, and also play queen e6. They can also play queen e6, but here black chose to play queen e6, the argument being that they are not afraid of this g3 bishop h3 harassment because they can simply go there and play knight b4 and create their own threats. And also queen e6 means that black does not lose a move in playing g6 and compromising the dark squares on this right half of the board. The bishop can simply come to c5, they can go to e7, and then once black is ready, they play d6, f6 to forcefully evict the pawn on e5. h5, well, h5, I think the conspiracy here is written on the walls here that h6 is on the way. Also, now black cannot play queen g6, so logistically it will be a little bit difficult. d6, so here black immediately shows that there's a knife under the map. Plays d6, once white plays c4, and here black plays knight b6. So unfortunately, the downside of queen e6 here is that this typical maneuver with bishop a6 doesn't work because of this collateral move here with takes knight, because the queen is on e6 instead of e7. So here, unfortunately, black has to play knight b6, and now white plays bishop f4. Black plays d5 after realizing that efforts to remove the pawn d5 has become a little bit futile here. Black also plays d5 because most likely what happens is that f6. Okay, I thought there was an issue with c5 and then you take, but I guess black has a lot of different moves like knight d5 or even just play f takes. Okay, so why black did not play? So I wonder why black did not play f6 here. I am guessing it is because I know why now. I am guessing it is because white will take on f6 actually, because normally when you play f6 with the knight on d5, the knight can turn around and take the pawn on f6. But here, because of this pin, black has to take the pawn this way. G takes, and of course, for anyone that is familiar with pawn island theory, I think G and H pawn looks more workable. Seems to be more workable than F and H pawns. Okay, so black plays d5. Again, inviting white to remove some of the positional restrictions they imposed on black. White doesn't respond. They play knight d2, d takes, and here we could say that we could say that black has induced a little bit of chaos by having an extra pawn and also 3 c pawns to provoke white into making mistakes. A3, A3 important move because we do not want bishop b4 and c3, which at that point white would no longer be able to handle the amount of chaos in the position. Black plays queen d5 because they saw that white had a choice to play g3, bishop g2, so they play queen d5 to remove it. Knight e4, bishop f5, knight c3. However, here, after this maneuver, I believe that, wait, what happened here? I think queen here happened, I guess. So queen d4, they attack the bishop, queen f3, knight d5. Okay, so bishop g3, and I believe here this is where black sort of caves under the pressure and makes a game-breaking error here. Here black played bishop d3. Black played bishop d3 to wall off the d-file and force some favorable exchanges in terms of the knight and the bishop on f1. However, it was more important for black to weed out the checkmating threats first. So if you're black here, what can you do to weed out all the checkmating threats in one swoop? Castles, well, castles will be nice, but I think this is why the CPS agents will visit you for negligence of your children. I agree. Castles is actually unbelievably promising here. No, there's something a little bit simpler, actually. Here, I had a feeling that black is already aware that they have to give a pawn back to reduce tension on the board. But the simplest way actually is to just do a queen g4 here. Queen g4 removes the queen. So here, 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 and maybe we'll just play bishop e6. We play rook b8, and then when white has to move this pawn, a5, c5, all looks like positionally compromising moves that white is not necessarily equipped to respond to. But here black played bishop d3, which now allows us to see how Victor artistically handles this position here. So if you're a white here, how would you continue? And no, castles queenside, black can take your a pawn. And we have some issues again. Rook h4, interesting. I think rook h4 could have worked, but I'm guessing that white wanted to castle kingside, so they wanted to castle kingside, so this rook has to be saved on h1. So rook h4 is the right idea, but we actually, I think rook d1 happened in the game. Yeah, rook d1 happened, yes. So for the viewers, rook h4 is the right idea. You want to knock off the queen, but white wants to castle. White wants to castle. So queen c5, takes, 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 takes. Bishop e7. So here black also senses some danger and tries to develop. Fortunately, they're on time to castle because white also needs to castle. But after everyone castles, it appears that already black is no longer equipped to defend this position. Black plays queen a3. Not entirely sure if black has time to do that. If they do, great, then maybe they're winning. But here, white just ignores everything. They play rook b1, a5, rook c7, queen a2 here. And so we reach this sort of terminal position here for black because they're up a pawn, but they're borderline helpless in watching their king being apprehended by a swarm of white pieces, two of which are already in touching distance on the 7th rank, which we have colloquially known them for spreading flu. Queen e6. Black tries to turn around. Queen e8. Here, white plays h6 because black forgot to play. Black never found time to play h6. So h6. Black plays g6. They want to preserve their structural integrity, and here white, of course, doesn't agree to that, so they play e6. And here black should probably play bishop g5, but the position remains very pessimistic after something like queen e4, I think, because you cannot take this pawn because e7 is just winning. Here black played a4, which allowed for which resulted in this game inducted into the Sotheby Institute. So, if you're white here, how would you conclude the game here? Just for people out of curiosity, what the numbers say about this position, right now white is plus 14 in this position. I agree. I agree with normal Ed Super that you should take the bishop because now black has no moves. So you have to go here because this is a problem. But now we just take this check with check and bishop e5 next. And here, so here in this game we see how through playing an opening that's not necessarily by the books at his level, and also with the way he not by the book way he approached the late opening to the early middle games. Victor was able to achieve this spectacular win against a nearly 2,700 player. And there are more players that I would like to introduce from my school, but that unfortunately is all the time we have for this evening. I would stay tuned for the introductions for next week, and I hope the model games tonight have inspired you to find something that you can apply to your own games. Thank you everyone for watching, and up next is Tuesday Masters with Grandmaster Dennis Boros.